Good evening, everybody. It's 6:05 in the evening on Wednesday, Tuesday November the 10th, and this is the Town of Mamaroneck Sustainability Collaborative. So welcome, everyone. We have an interesting and varied agenda this evening. A number of topics, trees, phone applications, environmental health, updates on healthy yards, and then our 2021 collaborative goals and budget. So quite a wide spectrum. I'm glad to see people here. Great. So the first thing we'd like to do is we'll go around in a minute, but maybe what we could do is do the meeting notes. So has anybody read the meeting notes from last time? Okay.
Yeah, I've read.
Good, George.
Me.
Excellent.
Me too.
Excellent. All right. Is there a motion about the meeting minutes?
I have a
Approve.
I
move to approve them.
This evening. Number of topics.
We have an echo.
Oh, you're right. Phone applications, environmental health, updates on healthy yards, and then our two. Okay, maybe I'm sure LMC has fixed that. All right. So George, were you saying something?
I think I have something on the minutes, page 3.
Okay, go ahead.
Under Gorson Post Road, second line,
Okay.
sentence starting with kickoff.
Okay.
It's not a sentence. Something's missing there.
Okay. All right, Sue, you and I will look at that afterward and fix it.
Now I can go home.
No, you can't. No, you can't. All right, anything else? Any other adjustments, corrections to the minutes?
No, I've read the minutes and I'll make a motion to accept them with a change to make a sentence.
All right, any seconds to that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, the minutes have been approved. Okay, so why don't we quickly go around and introduce ourselves? I'm not exactly sure how that would work here, because the order that you all are on my screen is probably not the same on anybody else's screen, right?
Right.
Well, then we could all count to 3 and just say our names at once and then move on.
Mitch, why don't you introduce, like starting at the upper left on your screen, say, do you know what I mean? Say the person's name and then they can say what they're.
All right, great. I'll do it that way. So top row in my book at all times is George Roninger.
George?
George?
Town of Mamaroneck Gardens Association.
Okay, then next along the top, one of the original collabs, still going strong, Michelle Lewis. Arlene, you're next.
Okay, Arlene Novich, Town of Mamaroneck on healthy yards and food scrap recycling and trees.
Perfect. Mark Kramer, we have 3 Marks this evening, have to keep them straight. Mark Kramer?
Yeah, I'm on work with Karen Corps on food scraps and have participated with trees and anything else of interest environmentally.
Okay. And Mark, you're also our top person for weather because you were a meteorologist previously. Is that right?
Still am.
All right. So if you need to know the weather, talk to Mark. All right. Next up, let's see. Karen Weisberg.
Hi, everybody. I'm the biker chick.
All right. Excellent. Next, another one of the original collabs. We have a good turnout tonight of the originals. Mark Carell.
Hi, everybody. First of all, we have to compliment Mark Kramer. We've had such great weather for the last week.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right? I mean, this perfect 70-degree weather in mid-November. How long is it going to stay, Mark? Much longer we're going to have this? You're on mute.
Oh, Mark, you shouldn't be. Okay, I think we can all be.
Just a couple more days, that's it.
Okay. So anyway, I work on energy issues, carbon emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, things like that.
Great. Okay, next up we have Alexander Boswell, one of our Okra students from the high school.
Yeah, hi, I'm Alex Boswell. I'm a senior at the high school, and along with Ryan, we're a part of the Okra group. So we'll be showing you guys our the app we've been working on the past couple of weeks.
Great. Next up, Eliza.
Hi, I'm Eliza Pertz. I'm a holistic psychotherapist, and I've been doing work about 5G and putting together an ordinance to try and put some rules in place to protect us from those wireless waves.
Great. Next up, our other Okra student for the evening, Ryan Mcintyre.
Everyone, Alex kind of made my introduction for me, but I'm a senior at the high school as well. I'm also a part of the Okra program.
Great. The next row down, the person who invented the role of town administrator, Steve Altieri.
Hi, everybody. All right, we said what I do, so I don't have to go any farther right now.
Okay, Karen Core.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Core, working on food scrap recycling and Love Your Food.
Okay, Kevin Crowe.
Hello, yes, Kevin Crowe. I'm also on the Larchmont Garden Civic Association board, along with George. Good to be here.
Great, thank you. Libby?
Hi, Libby Poirier. I am in the village of Larchmont, but on the collab, and I do everything Arlene does. So healthy yards, food scrap recycling with Karen, and I'm going to try to help them with the trees committee as well.
Great, great. The person without whom we could not possibly function, Sue Erna.
Oh, okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'm the sustainability coordinator, which means that I take all these notes of everything that you say. And I'm also the assistant to Nancy Seligson, who is the town supervisor, for those who don't know. And I post to Facebook, and so everybody should check out the town's Facebook page, where I made Karen Core just a little bit more famous today.
Oh, good, good.
Wow.
Next row down, Stella.
Hi, I go to Ursuline, and over the summer I helped out a lot with Healthy Yards and Love Your Food. And this is my mom.
Hi.
Hi, we've seen you before.
Yeah.
Love your food.
Great. Next up, another one of the original collabs, Frank Owens.
Caught me with my mouth full. Hello, everybody. Yes, I've been, working on the collab for a while. I'm now spent a lot of time working with Mark Manley and Steve Altieri on the solar for the Hummocks ice rink, which I think is going to happen sometime next year, which is exciting. I think we should try to figure out how we promote that as effectively as possible. And then the other thing that is on my plate, which I haven't done anything with is trying to figure out if there's an alternative for noisy generators around people's homes. So I have a bunch of people who volunteered to help out, looking at things like plugging in electric cars, which is an easy solution. So those are the kind of two things that come to mind. But
All right, great. Next up, a Howell Park graduate, the birthplace of famous collaboratives, Mark Manley.
Hey, good evening. Yeah, I used to live in Howell Park. I'm kind of a solar energy, renewable energy guy, working with Frank on the Hummocks rink, and doing a little bit of work in recycling as well now. Actually, a lot of work. But this week I'm spending a lot of time working on renewables. So I do some consulting with NYSERDA every year. So I'm busy with that. So I'm going to turn my screen off probably, but I'll listen in the background.
Okay. All right. Next is Denise Dunn. Denise joined us a few years ago and is known as the sort of the dragon slayer of the New York State funding website. So Denise.
Hi, all. I help out with the plug-in electrical vehicles and help out with any needs on my interests here as far as food scraps. I live at Larchmont Acres West. So here to help what needs to be.
Great. Thank you. And then last, Patty, please introduce yourself.
Hi, so I'm Patty Caparelli. I serve as the chair of the City of Rye Sustainability Committee, and I'm also a member of the Town of Rye Sustainability Committee.
Okay, great. So Patty, just because you might be leaving soon, not precisely on our agenda this evening, but if you got Sue's enclosures to tonight's meeting, you would have seen that the Boston Post Road is one of our priorities for this year. We're going to be circling back and talking about that toward the end of the meeting. And we're really happy that you're here and can engage with us. We think there's a little bit of heavy lifting on our side to start getting the town and the villages going, but what we'd like to see is working with you to go from New Rochelle to Portchester with bike lanes and more complete streets all the way. So thank you. Our agenda tonight, we have 5 main topics. The first one is one of our objectives for next year, which is Town of Mamaroneck trees yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We had some discussion of this last time, and Arlene, although Luke and some of the other folks you're gathering together couldn't make it tonight, perhaps you can just give us an update on where we are, and we can have a discussion about perhaps what our goals ought to be for 2021.
Okay, well, we talked a little bit about some of the issues at the last meeting. I know that I tried to get in touch with Elizabeth Atchison, and from what she had sent back to me, I was under the impression that there is a tree survey that is, that the town has done, or that's part of the trees of the town. But she said that she doesn't know of any. Now, possibly Steve may have some insight into that. I don't know.
The tree survey was done well in advance. The tree survey was actually done by the former Conservation Advisory Commission. I'm guessing we did it probably in the mid-90s before Elizabeth came to work with us. So it exists in the records. I will speak with Elizabeth tomorrow and see if we can't dig it out somewhere. I mean, it is quite old, and many things have changed, but there was a survey done.
Okay, because that actually would be, interesting also to see the difference or the changes, or even the kinds of trees, how some of the trees have survived or not survived. I know, like on my street, if you look at pictures before and after, because we've been here over 35 years, it doesn't look like the same street. So you actually can see, and with that, you'd be able to see where there might be opportunity to plant. So I think that might be very important. She thought maybe the county had something, but I don't think they do anything local. That does not sound like it makes sense to me. So, but if we can get our hands on something like that, that would be very, instructive. Because I know Perry is working on her area, the Rocking Stone area, and she had suggested if some people want to maybe add to that and do their own street and maybe an adjacent street or two, that would add to it. It's a major production to do the whole, we still have quite a few trees. So it's a major production if we wanted to kind of cover all of them.
Michelle?
One thing, because we're looking to see if we can get up to 40% tree coverage. We don't know what we were in the past, so that would be interesting to look at also. So that was, and then Sue had passed me along, she had passed along this her last email that she got some answers from you, Steve, about the town arborist. We have two that work with the highway department, right? Is that the highway department?
Correct.
Yeah. And they are part of the, along with Liz Atchison, that's our tree preservation committee, correct? So we don't have any residents that are on that. I mean, I don't know that we need it. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to figure out exactly what we have so we know where we start from. But from your background, Steve, did we have residents that were on it? Was that a good thing, or was it too many, hands in the stew, or?
I think you have to decide what you want the goal of it to be. I mean, generally it was to evaluate trees that residents were asking to take down. We then moved into the tree permit program, and the committee would help evaluate the trees that were the subject of the permits. The problem was it was hard to keep the residents at the time, engaged in this whole thing, and we sort of then moved away to, we've got two arborists that we train. We had Elizabeth, and then the building inspector was also on it for the simple reason that he handles the the construction permits, and generally these applications for tree removal had to do with a construction permit.
So this would be something that we would have to think about and consider and see if it's worthwhile to do that. Now, when I was researching, and I went over some of this the last time, so I don't want to repeat that, but there are a couple of really good websites, two from the DEC, and one it's from the DEC, and it's on tree ordinances. It gives sample ordinances. It goes into details about getting tree grants. It also goes into some of the nitty gritty, how to plant a tree, planting maintenance and removal information, municipal authority and responsibility info. There's a couple of pieces, not all of it was really pertinent for us, but some things I thought were pretty useful. And I think a lot of that is out of Ithaca. They're using a lot of information from Ithaca. And the other thing that was interesting, and I was just able to pull it up before, because I used the other computer that has better Wi-Fi. I think that was my problem, but I had signed up for this tree ordinance webinar several weeks ago, and I couldn't attend because I had to take my daughter to the doctor, but they posted it. It was recorded, and I wasn't able to get it upstairs on my computer, but I was able to get it just before. I thought maybe it was a problem with theirs. And that it's a 3-hour webinar. So, it's like brace yourself. But you can move it along. And there were quite a few interesting pieces from that. And it was through the New York State DEC and Relief, which is a program upstate. So they kind of went into some of the details that may be useful for us. And, and I think at this point, we really have to decide, do we want a committee to look at some of these things, how we promote tree planting, tree buying, getting, whether it's a grant or there are ways of getting tree donation. I think Mark had even mentioned about getting tree donations. So these are some of the things that we would have to look at. And if we're going to do something like that, we probably need to do it in the winter so that we could get it going for the spring. And time goes very quickly.
Right. Michelle, you were going to say something?
Just a little bit. I mean, I think the village of Larchmont has has residents that are on their tree committee that used to be very active. I'm a little surprised that there isn't a more formal group that looks at it in the town. We've been purchasing trees for many years, and the town, if you purchase a tree from the town, they will make arrangements to come and plant it, and they'll review it with you at your home. I think, given where we are right now, I think adding a committee and really incorporating trees would help us, certainly with the green infrastructure for the town, and being able to look at a map that has what we've got planted, because trees are a huge aid to absorbing water and to keeping the ground steady. And I think if there are areas where we're having trouble with that, we could certainly use them. We've lost, around our property, we've lost 6 large trees over the last 10 years. And there is no effort with the town to replace any of those trees, but we've never tried. We've talked about it within Howell Park.
Right.
But Liz has a really nice assortment of what she's able to get. And the trees that we've planted from the town have been beautiful, cherry, plum, right? And they've grown and they've been healthy, and they come and they put the bags around them when they start, and then they keep their eyes on them. So I don't know just who's doing it. Where'd Steve go? But it's a good.
He's around.
Group.
There he is.
You know, we do a spring and fall planting every year, and we budget money for some of it, then there are donations for the rest. I was just looking at the tree law while you were talking, so.
I think we do need some criteria for where to plant them and how to plant them. And Arlene, I was surprised to see that someone had, I guess, a guideline not to plant them under the wires, right?
Yep.
Right now, Elizabeth will tell you, you can only plant between the sidewalk and the curb, which are usually, one side of the street, it's below the wires. So, well, as you know, I'm game to help you.
Terrific.
Okay. So, yes, Mark, go ahead.
Arlene, does Perry have a sheet, a form, or spreadsheet so that everyone can use the same methodology to keep track of their trees or identify what trees are on a block? If you could send it.
Yeah, I could find out.
Okay, because that's critical if
Right.
you're just beginning to come up with a form of some sort.
Can I jump in?
Please.
Mitch, I just wanted to add that I think I've been out on a major project before, but I'm back now with more time for this. And I think that in Larchmont, they are looking at planting more natives in the parks and public spaces. And I think that would be important for the town also. And I will also say that I've just noticed that a lot of the trees that came down in the most recent couple of storms, when you look at them, they're diseased. So these are things, accidents waiting to happen. And I know it costs a lot of money and that's all very complicated, but the tree stock needs to be replaced, even beyond the ones that have already come down.
Yep. Okay, so I think, Arlene, what we talked about last time is that you've got 3 or 4 people that are interested in working on this with you as sort of a subcommittee or a task force. And probably the best thing to do would be to gather them together offline, and go over some of the things you're talking about this evening. So in our sustainability plan, which we did in 2014, we established a goal of increasing tree cover in the town. You've now put a metric next to that, which is great. It sounds like if Steve can get hold of whatever paper copies are from the survey that was done back in the mid-90s, that would be a great starting point. I know that Arlene, you've been looking at tree laws from various places, and that's another aspect of this. But we also have to see how we can establish some basic guidelines for what we're going to assess, how to assess it, what's the key information. And that's probably just a little bit of desktop research to figure that out. So what do you think, Arlene? Do you think between now and I guess it's going to be December the 8th, there might be some time you could get, like-minded people together to talk through some of those things?
Right, we'll have some kind of a meeting and get a couple of ideas going and make some kind of a plan.
Okay, I think
That
that'd be
makes
great.
sense? Yeah.
Yes, it'll
'Cause
be.
there are several people, there are several people, and that's really good because, we can kind of gather these ideas and figure out how to go about it too.
Great.
Can I just
Please.
say one thing? I think we've talked about this before, but the LEC is also talking about trees, and sometimes I feel like I'm having a deja vu because we're having like the exact same conversation in the meetings. And to me, shouldn't we be doing this together? Because it's exactly the same thing they're doing, which is looking to, record what we have, look at where we have, ground that's loose, where there's drunken trees, and, see what's needed and do that kind of data building and look for donations to get trees or grants or see what's available. I mean, it's the same thing.
Eliza, to your point, I talked to Sasha Nar, who's going to be a co-chair starting in January of the LEC. And so absolutely. We talked about it informally because we were doing a catch-up walk. And so absolutely. And we will, Arlene, we can make sure that happens. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because they're all super excited too. They really want to do the same thing.
Absolutely. Great.
Okay, so
Right,
that's a great idea and wonderful to have it. So Arlene, one of the things perhaps before your meeting you might get somebody to dig into is if we have a survey, what is it we're surveying? Location is obviously one thing. Tree size is something. Guess at the age is something. Species, species is something. So those sound like 4 or 5 things that anybody would think we should be looking at. But perhaps, people who do this for a living, whether they're the Cornell, Agricultural Extension Committee or whatever, they probably have some good ideas to, give us a template that then we can use.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anything else on this one?
The only thing just to throw out quick is the stability of the roots. For the areas where there's a lot of water, that's a big deal. That's why a lot of trees who are not sick fall down because they can't, even if they're holding on to their canopy and their other friends' roots, they can't stay up because there's not enough dry soil. It's too moist. They get what's called a drunken forest. They kind of.
Right. Okay, good. Excellent. All right, we're going to move along. And we're going to the Okra Green App conversation. So Joe Liberti has joined us as well, along with Alexander and Ryan. There you are. Steve Moser has also joined us. Excellent. Hi, Steve.
Hey.
So a couple of weeks ago, Michelle and I had a Zoom with Ryan, Alexander, and Joe, and you guys took us through the app that Ryan and Alexander have started. Do you think that's the best way to go through this evening, Michelle? What do you think?
I do. I think they do a terrific job of it, and both Ryan and Alex are here, and I think they can walk us through. We had worked up sort of an agenda. I believe we start with 4 sections, possibly 5 on the app, and they're broken down into individual projects that relate to them that we're working on in the collaborative, and that, so we haven't included everything, but we've included almost everything. And I think that they're very skilled at showing you how to do it. So I think we should just turn it over to them. What do you think?
Perfect. So Alexander and Ryan, maybe you should start off with what's the idea? What's your objective? How to, and then verbally tell us how it works.
Sure. So, yeah. So thank you guys again for slotting out time for us. And you guys are very busy. So basically our goal for the app was to create a platform that kind of consolidated. So first part of it was consolidating all the available information on ways to, in that the town and the 3 municipalities, how all the information they have to promote maybe in lessening your carbon footprint or just ways to improve your environmental impact. So basically what we started off as doing was looking at all the available local information that is available to the residents and putting that all down and getting as much as we could. And then basically with the help of Michelle, we got 4 categories. So I can, when we move into the app, I'll be able to show you guys, I can walk you through it. So it'll make more sense when we can show the app. But basically, so we have these 4 categories, and then in each category, there's subcategories with various tools. So for example, one of them is water capture and reuse. And then, so then a subcategory of that would be rain barrels. And then there's information on rain barrels from why you can use them, how, where you can actually get them because the town offers them. And then basically all the available information from the local resources. So that's pretty much what we've been doing the past few weeks. And now we've been utilizing the Glide, which is like I think it's from Google, and it's a way you can build, like, it's pretty simple to build an app and it puts all the information in. So then if I can share my screen, I can show you guys the actual app and we can walk you through it.
Okay, let's see whether LMC can coordinate this.
Yeah, I think I'm allowed to share. So can you guys see my screen now?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, cool. Yeah, so basically all this, it can change and it's not finalized yet. So like you can see here, we have like different wording that we're playing around with, and so nothing's finalized yet. And we can always add or subtract categories and information. So it's very flexible and easy to use basically. So these are the 5 categories that we worked with Michelle to finalize. So you can see it's a pretty wide range. So from water capture, reuse, low impact lawn and gardens, composting and food waste reduction, alternative and low carbon transportation, and single-use plastic reduction. So basically, obviously you can sell this as basically like the app interface, like how you do it on an iPhone or whatever phone you have. And basically how it would work was the user would load up the app, they would come to this screen and they would click on, say, the section that they want, and it would open up this with 4 subcategories we have. So I talked about the rain barrels, permeable pavers, green roofs, and rain gardens, which all these are specific to water capture and reuse, if that was the issue or subject that they were focused on. And then if they were interested in rain barrels, it would open up a page where they get a quick description, why rain barrels are useful, how rain barrels can be used. And then, so this is a video on how to use rain barrels and install them. And then, so they could actually just click the video and it'll play right in the app for them. So they don't have to go to a different website and it won't take them anywhere else. So it's very easy for them to use. And then, so these 2 things are parts of the thing where, so if they click on this, right, it will take them to the town website where it actually leads them to where they can purchase the rain barrels. And yeah. And so pretty much all of the subcategories are relatively similar to that, varying in certain like information, stuff like that. So obviously it's not all of them will have the videos yet because we are still working on that. So then that in the second half of our goal was, so obviously the first was consolidating the information. And then the second half was creating a way where we can really encourage the implementation of these techniques. So basically that would mean like for the rain barrels, right, it's showing you exactly where you can get them and how to install them. And then like for the low impact gardens, right, a way for native plants would be directing them right to the nurseries where they can actually purchase these things. So that's kind of what we're working on now and finalizing that information.
Great. Sue, I think you're watching somewhere. You just don't happen to be on my screen at the moment. What's your first impression?
I think that looks great. I love that it connects to other things like the rain barrel video that's on our website, and as he was saying, it would be great if you always want sort of one-stop shopping, right? So if there's a way to go right from seeing the object to purchasing it, going to the website. I mean, it looks good from what I'm seeing so far. Yeah.
So one of the things, I think these guys are doing an amazing job. And one of the things that was really interesting is that, as everybody knows, in a lot of the things we're trying to do, we're bumping up against the challenge of community outreach and education. And it seemed like this was a great tool that could help us on any of the programs we're already doing or anything we might want to do as a priority for next year. Thoughts about that? Michelle?
I agree. I think we have to investigate how easy it is to do all of the steps which Sue's mentioning. For instance, when you get into rain barrels, how you get into the purchase of the pieces and where you get stuck with that and how to make sure that it's complete. And I like that today I said, we want to add trees into this section because this new tree program is something that I think will be important in capturing water.
Right.
And that's easy. So for me, I mean, I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so they're dragging me along with the technical piece of this. But I think the possibilities for it with the collaborative make the consolidation of information, the availability of connecting with residents, and people really being able to do things. I read, I believe it was in your minutes, that the intern from the summer said it's great for people to be involved with environmental issues, but they need more education. They feel that it's clumsy for them. They just need more, and this would give them more. So
it's Matt Thomas here. If I can ask a couple of questions of the fellows that built this. How to Michelle's point about updating with one of our new programs, how easy is it for like not you guys to have to make the updates? Like, can you have a kind of like group admins, or otherwise, when you guys go off and get busy, and in a year's time when we've got another program, we wouldn't necessarily be able to turn to you to keep this up to date.
Yeah, I can answer that. So basically, we just have a username and password for the app that I gave Michelle, and it's very accessible for you guys, obviously, as we continue to go on to college and things like that. And the foundation of the app is just Google spreadsheets. Like all the information that you see here is based on a Google spreadsheet that we just plugged information into. So in that way, it's like very simple. There's no like coding expertise needed. Neither Alex or I have any kind of expertise or experience in that area, and you don't need it for Google Glide. So that's really helpful. And I think it takes very little time to get familiar with the app and everything. So I don't think it would be too difficult at all to make any updates or anything like that over time.
Cool. So my second question is, I don't know if you'll be able to do this with Google Glide, but one of the things I know from mobile apps is that people download them, they get very excited.
Mark, Matt, you're cutting in and out.
Write the road down and get forgotten about unless you have in notifications. So is that something that's supported? I mean, it's not a biggie if it's not, but I mean, I think
try saying that again. It was hard to hear you, I think.
I was just asking if there's like in-app notifications or push notifications available. Given that without those, apps tend to, so you have early adoption when it first gets installed, but then depending on where on your iPhone or mobile device it is, it can never be looked at again, and you obviously want to stimulate ongoing viewing. and you do that through notifications, right? So I don't think it's I don't think it's a biggie, because I think what we might find is I think this is great work, and I think it could really showcase what we should be doing around citizen engagement in this area. And then if it does get adopted, then maybe we can invest some of the budget in this kind of thing to expanding it, maybe, you know, having the guys here build it on a different platform that does enable additional functionality, like, you know, some sort of community sort of like engagement, right? So where people could ask a question, for example, and that can be answered. And
Can you do that now?
I can answer, if I could jump in here quickly, just to answer some of that. So, just to me, again, I'm Joe Liberti. I head up this program called Original Civic Research in Action. So just a couple things. One, while these young men will be going off to college, I will not be. So I'm still around, and my tech support that I have at the high school that I work with closely, he's still around. So that's just important to kind of put out there. Ryan, you know, did quickly show you that it's incredibly easy to use because you're working off of a spreadsheet, which people are familiar with. Two, when this app goes through its beta test, which my guess would probably be like in January. At that point, through a grant, a subscription will be purchased. That'll last for 2 years. That subscription will allow some of the functionality that you're referring to increase engagement. I think you're right about the engagement component. So already right now, I have another group of students who built an app for the residents of Larchmont. And one thing they're building in right now is the ability for the administrators to create simple surveys where you could collect data from residents, from members of the collaborative. So I was just even thinking just quickly, even having the ability to collect data on trees. You know, you could utilize this for gathering data, like, you know, creating like, you know, civic scientists. So there is that engagement that you can create in terms of collecting information. And it's my understanding, based on what I've learned recently, that there will be in the very near future, the ability to do push notifications. So in terms of engagement, there's lots of potential here in both directions. So I just wanted to put that out there.
That's awesome. I'm very impressed. Yeah, I remember when you came to the collaborative meeting and did a pitch. You know, I work in the sort of software industry. So if you want any of my input, then I'm pretty sure I filled in one of your forms.
Yes.
So you can sort of rifle through that and drop me a line. I'd be happy to help.
Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Anybody else? Any of the Marks have anything to say? There's 3 of you to choose from.
I often have things to say. Anyway, I love Joe's idea of, you know, kind of the citizen science and using the app. I think I might have mentioned this before on the survey of trees, but, you know, what a wonderful way to just take advantage of people with phones and geolocation and pictures, and then something like the CCAP, which I think I might have mentioned, to, you know, go and identify all the different trees that exist around. So yeah, maybe that's something we could, you know, just create another little window in the app and link to that.
Oh, so that's a question maybe to you, Joe. So what Mark's suggesting is that somebody out in the world, like Mark Kramer or Mark Manley, if we're doing a tree survey, could they take a picture of the trees around them and with some sort of geolocator embedded in the photograph and then upload it into this? Or is that a different kind of animal and a different use?
I can look into that. I mean, obviously, the easy answer would be like, you could create something that is linked to this platform. So it could be built separately and linked. But let me find out what potential capability there is to do that within.
It's Matt here again. I can tell you that's a pretty advanced use case, and my customers would be spending kind of five figures or more on anything even approaching that level of sophistication. More like, oh, I think there's like an elm on my block, you know, take a picture, but like geolocated is like, you know, geofencing essentially is what you're talking about, and it's pretty advanced tech.
So does that mean that you can't ask the app if rain barrels or green roofs is the better solution for your particular property?
Sorry, say that again.
Can you ask the app which of the green infrastructure solutions are best for your property if you're given a little survey? Does the app advise like that, or is it only a solution? If you say, I want to put a green roof in, how do I do it?
I think you could probably be able to build a sort of a little survey that, based on some simple logic, it could say, hey, a green roof is a good option for you, or, you know, you should start with a rain garden. But like taking a photo that and then uploading that and auto knowing where you are when you upload it is possible, but it's expensive, is what I'm saying, right? I have customers that do that kind of thing for not sustainability stuff, but they geofence and they spend a lot of money on that. You know, so that's why I'm just sort of, I think that you know, what the team here have done is an amazing proof of concept. I mean, I'm so pleased that they've done it. If we asked the town to be able to do this sort of thing, you know, Nancy and the board would just look at us like we were insane. It's way beyond the sort of thing that they're thinking about. I mean, after all, look at our website. Look at the town website, right? This is miles ahead of that. It may as well be magic. So, you know, I'm so pleased, Joe, that you're doing this work and that the boys have done this work. It's fantastic. It's fantastic, and maybe it will open the sort of the board's mind and all of our minds as to what we really could be doing with technology, because we're so behind.
Right. I think the dog likes it too.
That's a good thought.
Right.
I think that Ryan, are you still here, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm here.
We have a couple of questions about sort of the connection of this app to people and sources within the collaborative, as far as helping them with sections of the app. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So basically we have the majority of like the simple data and stuff inputted already. And what we're really looking for now is like the how-to things that would allow residents, you know, take that next step. So like Alex said, to implement these strategies, you know, to make a more positive environmental impact. So things like permeable pavers, what else? Two other things.
The solar, how about take the solar piece, because you have people on the collaborative, most of them who there are more sources who could help you with that. And what sort of things do you need them for?
Yeah, so I mean, we were just curious if there was anyone on the collaborative that would have like any direct experience in solar panel installation or use, or if they knew of anyone locally with the same qualities.
Well, so on the phone, on the Zoom this evening is Mark Manley, who in the past has given presentations to students in various places about his experience putting solar panels on his house. Just in terms of the how-tos, I think actually there's quite a good volume of people here. We have some of the folks from Love Your Food On, which has already quite a number of links to interesting things that are happening. And also Healthy Yards, I think our Healthy Yards people have, you know, can supply links to you. So maybe what we should do is take this on as a collective homework assignment on our side between now and the end of the year. The various from our various activities and programs, we'll start pulling together. Probably easiest for you is a series of links. That would be the most dynamic in terms of how to use the app. Is that correct?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, and if we aren't at the link stage yet, then at least we can tell you what it is we would have. We may have static images or other things. And again, we might have PowerPoints or whatever it is. And then we'll probably, rather than dribble it to you, should we send it to you in a more organized fashion? What's your thought process?
Literally, whatever's easiest for you. I mean, we appreciate any help we can get. So,
Probably would be, go ahead, Michelle.
Can we send out a list of sort of the table of contents now? And people can access that and put their links or questions about, will you include this or that, right into those sections. Do we have that?
Yeah, one of the things when we had the Zoom call, Joe, Alex, Ryan, and Michelle, we talked about, are these the right 5 things? And I said that we would be talking about that tonight, and it could be that we might want to tweak these a little bit. Not sure. I think we'll talk about this a little bit internally and get back to you, so that, for instance, we have certain programs that have names now, like Healthy Yards or Love Your Food. And it may be helpful. People may decide it might be a good idea to have those be what the white letters say on the homepage, for instance.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in the end, our goal is for you guys to kind of carry this on. So any part of your agenda that you want to promote or anything like that, literally just let us know, and we can easily make those changes and everything.
I'd like to add one more to trees, and that's native plants, which Luke was taking care of. Whether you separate them into 2 or you put it all under Healthy Yards or whatever, but the words native plants.
Right, and then Frank Owens, you were thinking of adding something?
Well, I've just, I guess I was looking at a place where you might have things energy related for buildings, and obviously solar, which these guys are just talking about. We have a lot of good, we do have from the Solarize campaign, we have a local installer that was pretty active. And so I guess we'd have to think through whether we want to be at this point promoting one particular solar. But in any event, getting back to the general idea, is I think just the heading alternative low carbon transportation, if it were just modified to maybe be low carbon buildings and transportation, that would capture that. But I think, we'll just, as we go through this, we'll just try to make sure that the categories are broad enough so that it captures at least the principal things that we're doing.
Right. And smart cities, right?
Pardon me?
And smart cities, the work on the Boston Post Road,
yep,
right, is separate from the biking. We'll have to tweak some of those. Are we locked into the 5 categories? Ryan, Alex, you think we
No, we can easily add or remove categories or rename them. It's just as simple as going to the Google sheet and then just changing the name here, or just going and adding another category, and then it'll just automatically implement it here, and it'll just add another one of these tiles, and then we can put the information in. So it's very easy just to update it and continuously change it.
But we want to remain with 5 tiles, right?
I mean, we can, if we need to add another one, like we have like another category that we have a bunch of other SAB categories for, we can always add more. But so we're not like locked in on having specifically 5. I think it's pretty open for whatever information, however much we have, and what looks like it's gonna be most usable for the users and for the community.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're always balancing sort of graphic design elements, layout in conjunction with content. So depending on what the collaborative thinks of these 5, if they adding more, adding, subtracting, those things are all possible. It just really is a question of, again, from my perspective, it's really sort of graphic design layout. So it might mean shift the look of it in order to make it still very user friendly. So maybe you move away from these tiles to smaller tiles that are no longer pictures, but rather the words are escaping right now, but more like more of a
So nice though.
you might have a symbol. So those are all things
Right.
to be worked out, not a problem. I think also just quickly, it might be helpful. I said I spoke with Alex before the meeting. It might be helpful for them to turn some of these pages you're looking at, and those could be put onto a PDF where you can share it out with the whole collaborative, so they could see like each page
Oh.
and what it looks like, and that might be a little easier for everyone to view and thumb through and offer also feedback by having that.
Oh,
Well,
that's
how would we
interesting.
get that? How would you do that?
Say again, Michelle?
How would you do that?
We would just Alex can simply do screenshots of each one of these and then place it into a document and turn it into a PDF.
And then what I'd suggest is that you guys send that to Sue, who is the keeper of our mailing list and coordinator of such things, and then she can send it out to all of us.
Okay.
Sue, is that all right?
Sue's gone.
Sure.
Where'd Sue go?
She's here somewhere. Okay, terrific, guys. Thank you so much. And I think we want to, however you keep going, probably sometime after the beta test is running, so maybe February-ish or March, if it takes that long, not a problem. What I'd like to do is we'll think about inviting you to a town board meeting and having you run the app for them.
Sounds great.
We may need to do it sooner than
Well, I think we want to make sure these guys have their act
with their
together.
schedule. With their schedule, do we need to do it sooner than that?
I don't think so. I think that we're going to get our budget passed, and if we need more money, I don't think this has ever been a problem to do something. And right now, I think they're very distracted with the budget for the end of the year anyway, so it gives you guys some time to do the work. All right. Why don't we, if we can go back to LMC TV, if we can go back to the regular
Thank
view.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, but stay on if you'd like,
Alex?
please.
Okay, Joe?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate all
Yeah,
your
thank
guys'
you, guys.
feedback and everything and
Great.
bringing us out on this.
Absolutely.
Good
So we're going to move on to the next agenda item, 5G environmental health. So I think everyone here remembers that we had an effort during the summer to look at a variety of things. The collaborative boiled this down to the notion of redoing our wireless code, which also is probably from about the same time frame as the tree survey. So there's kind of an ulterior and the comprehensive plan. So there's some kind of thing happening here. Actually through Eliza's and Ellen's efforts, we actually put together a model code, which we sent to the town. And what I've heard from the board is that they're interested in this as a topic, that they are interested in hiring a consultant who is going to be looking into that. But in the meantime, one of the things we raised as part of our report on the Bonnie Breyer cell tower was some of the differences between 5G and the kinds of telecommunications and wireless that's happened before. And Eliza sent along, I think last week, something new from the New Hampshire legislature. So I just thought maybe, Eliza, you could take a couple of minutes and brief us on what the legislature has done and what they've found.
Well, to be honest, I read it, but I haven't memorized it. But what I will say is that basically what came out of their long study, what New Hampshire said, wow, 5G sounds very intense. Before we agree to this, we want to look into it and see if it's safe. And so they did a huge, huge study, and they came up with a bunch of suggestions at the end of their study. And basically, what the outcome of their study is much like, Environmental Health Trust has always said, which is it affects the DNA and it hurts us on a deep genetic level, and it's very dangerous. And so we have to be really careful with it. And they talk about a bunch of ways that it's that it can be safer. And they're still not sure they want it in New Hampshire, but they sort of put out there, different studies that they think should be done, and, setbacks, and making sure that it's not near schools or old age homes or near hospitals, and really talking about exactly what it accomplishes and if it's what New Hampshire needs. I think what was useful about it was that they continue to want to see if it's safe and to do more and more studies on it. I'm going to look up but they completed a huge study, which basically came up with, all the studies I've sent all of you guys a million times. They looked at and they did some of their own, and they were the same conclusions, which is that it's dangerous. And just like the World Health Organization now sees it as a pollutant, they were in agreement with it versus being skeptical about it. So I think that that's sort of what the outcome was. And it was a real victory in a lot of ways, because it wasn't, yeah. They really took it very seriously. And so that was that.
Okay. Matt, I think you're here somewhere. I'm not sure you've had a chance to take a look at this, because Sue may have only sent it out today or a couple of days ago. Have you had a chance to read this thing from New Hampshire?
No, I haven't seen that. When did that get sent?
I think we may have only sent it this afternoon, so I'll apologize for us. So perhaps what we ought to do here is ask the collaborative members to take a look at this between now and next time, which will be December. And then maybe we can have another discussion of it and see what people are thinking and to what extent this might be useful to communicate with the board. One of the other things we're still looking for is more of a sense of what a 5G network looks like when it's rolled out. And Eliza, you didn't get a sense that New Hampshire actually has looked into that at all, did they?
No, I mean, we do know that 5G needs to be in a web. So we know that it has to be, can't be more than 200 feet, away from itself, each mini antenna. And we do know that it can't be around a building, and a tree can't be there, because the waves are much finer, and they're not like 4G that can be much longer and are much more, I guess, I don't even want to use the word durable, because I don't know what that means really. But so it looks like a web, like a spider's web, if you put it down on top of a map, and each one connects and uses each information. It's a way of sending data versus phone service.
But that's the very definition of a network. I mean, they're like, that is how they work right now. There's wires right between cell towers, and that's no different than the current tech.
No, it's different in that you don't.
And by the way, they're not trying
4G
to put
so close.
So yes, it's lower bandwidth on higher distances. But I don't think any of the cell companies are suggesting that their highest bandwidth cell towers go everywhere. They're suggesting putting those in places where there is a high need for high bandwidth. Funnily enough, places like schools where people congregate and need access to high bandwidth, right?
Or hospitals where they need a lot of data, and it's sort of unfortunately not the best place health-wise, but it is a place where you need to have back and forth information. And I don't know that it necessarily achieves that goal, but that's what they are saying it will.
Wait, sorry, what don't you think it's going to achieve?
I was saying, or hospitals. And I was saying that, and the hope is that it will achieve sending much more data, but we don't know if it will because the network hasn't yet been there. Nobody has a full rolled out 5G network. So.
Okay. All right. So why doesn't everybody take a look at this, please, between now and next time, and let's try to have a good discussion about it and see what we think our next steps are.
Just a quick question. Eliza, do you have a link to the New Hampshire legislature website that references the report? What was sent in the email looks like it's, I don't know, it's not a secure site, so I'm a little bit suspicious.
New Hampshire's legislative website? No, I don't have that.
Well, I mean, the report claims to be for the New Hampshire legislature, so typically they would make those public on the legislature website. So I just like to see it in the original source, not where this.
I can research that. I don't. I just have you saw what was sent out, and that's what you're looking that it was from the EMS Safety Network.
Click it. It's not a secure link, and so it just a little bit suspicious of where it's coming from. So.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Mark. We'll see what we can do to find that for you.
Thanks.
And everybody else. Okay. Next subject is a little bit of a series of updates on Healthy Yards, Love Your Food, and food scraps recycling. So the agenda says we should start with Healthy Yards and Love Your Food. So Mark, Arlene.
All right, well, so Healthy Yards, June wasn't able to be here, but we worked together on everything. Two things from the Healthy Yards.
All frozen.
Oh.
Frozen?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. You're moving again.
Okay. We've been working on the B team presentation, and that is going to be a video. It's going to be recorded, the whole thing. So we don't have any glitches like freezing in the middle of a presentation. So we have a lot of the footage is done, and June is doing the storyline and the script. And I contacted the video teacher who recommended 2 students who are going to do some additional footage, and they're going to do the editing, because without the editing, you have nothing. And LMC is not, they will take the finished product and they will put it, they'll do put it in their, their, what do you call it?
Their video library?
Yeah, their video library, and we'll send it out as a, like a presentation. We're going to contact parents through the schools, go through the schools and the wider community. So that, that we're working on. I mean,
so could you tell it, given what we just saw from Okra and the app, do you have a sense of how long the presentation is planned to be?
It'll probably be about, I would say, altogether 20 minutes.
Okay. So
it's only that. We're not combining it with anything else at this point. We were going to, but at this point, we're just going to have just that for this particular.
Right. So so Joe or Matt.
What? Are you ready for dinner? Well, no, I'm still on my meeting.
What's for dinner?
Sorry.
No, you're not inviting us all? Okay.
You're welcome.
So 20 minutes sounds great. I'm just wondering whether, and listen, it's going to be a big effort to do this the first time. Completely get it. In the future, as we think about things like this, should we be aiming for shorter time frames Anybody want to volunteer on that, especially if we're thinking this app could really be a great platform?
I mean, I think we could, or we could reduce this. There's also, I imagine you could probably post it. Well, part of the problem is we need to connect this with Healthy Yards. And they already other footage, and they were also CBS. CBS profiled the B team. They are the first, I don't know if they're still the only, but they are the first school raising bees in the state.
Oh, okay.
They may still be the only ones. I'm not sure about that, but CBS profiled them and did a little piece on them. But the thing about that is it does not lead to Healthy Yards. And we're using this to kind of, this is one of the reasons why you want to have a yard without pesticides. But we could also, we have a pretty good web page. So certainly link that and use that in the app. And that has some other additional links that are in there, so that works pretty well, I think.
Okay, great.
And the other thing, which I just found out about this, I think yesterday, which is interesting, is that I'm going to be on a call with Lisa McDonald and Sasha Nar from LEC with Bethlehem. What is it called? Bethlehem Tomorrow. Bethlehem, the town in upstate New York, because what they're trying to do is they had met with their assemblywoman, and they want to change the law, the New York state law, that prohibits municipalities from regulating pesticides. I mean, that's one of the reasons why every time, people are always saying, well, why isn't there a law? Why can't we just pass a law? And I know Nancy says this because I remember even seeing her face when I asked her that originally. And it's like she says this probably 5 million times. But so they are really working towards trying to change the state law so that municipalities can then have their own, make their own law, certain restrictions or whatever. So it sounded really interesting. So that is, I think, the end of this week, Monday, I think. But that, I think, oh, here she is. Okay.
Yeah,
Monday is that. I've got like 4 different Zoom things. Yes.
You said it perfectly. That's exactly what it is. So we're hopeful if they've already met with their assemblywoman, and so I don't know how far along they are in the process, but they have drafted something. And so we want to hear what they've done and then see if it's something that we could maybe replicate down here.
Okay, great. Okay, so that was Healthy Yards?
Yes.
Okay, next, Love Your Food?
Yeah, hi. Unfortunately, Beth Radau can't be here and Alana Mass. But we've recently, gotten submitted an amendment to the Love Your Food grant because of COVID. And so in particular, the school part of the grant has, we've proposed an amendment. What seems to be getting approved is the proposed repurposing of funds that were allocated in the spring for the 5th grade field trips to Greenberg Nature Center for the students to learn about the connection between reducing food waste and climate change and all that. So, that didn't happen. So instead, the town submitted a proposal to repurpose those funds for a series of videos that would assist teachers, the 5th grade teachers, to continue to, incorporate food waste reduction in their curriculum for 5th graders for this year too, presumably. And also, so the proposal was for a series of videos that would replace, in a way, the Greenberg Nature Center field trip for 5th graders. And then the other thing was to repurpose the transport funds for transporting the students to Greenberg Nature Center, to use those transportation funds to create a video on why and how to recycle food scraps at home. And so it looks like we've gotten approval from that from DEC. I think Lindsay Love from the town has been working on that, and it looks like we've gotten approval for that. The one thing that we didn't get approval for was an extension of the grant, the part that deals with the in-school, the assemblies. The Greenberg Nature Center has been the consultant providing training and assemblies to the middle school on food scrap recycling, on the sorting and training the whole the student body as well as staff in their zero waste efforts. Obviously, this school year that has not happened, and they didn't, and GNC hasn't been able to go in to do the training and education on that. So we had requested for an extension from DEC, and they said that at this point they can't approve that. They doesn't mean that they can't at all. It's just closer to the date, I guess, of completion of the grant, they may, entertain that. So we don't know. We don't know whether we can add an additional year to the grant, which was a 3-year grant that started the last fall.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see. But it looks, at least we can come up with. We'll be able to get our. We'll be able to work on the video on the why and how to do food scrap recycling, which we could also disseminate to the community, which would benefit beyond just the school, the students, but also their families and the larger community. So we're hoping that our consultants will be able to work on that. The Love Your Food communications consultant.
Oh, so on the how to food scraps video, who will be producing that?
It'll be LMC TV, hoping to get, but the content the design, would be with using our communications consultants, Tamar Hurwitz and Drew from the California team. So they'll be working to make sure that it's in line with the Love Your Food theme and the branding guidelines. And then, we would work with LMC TV, I guess, in terms of the production. That's the idea.
What do you think the time frame might be?
So we just recently got the approval, I think, for that. And so I'm not, so now that we've gotten the approval, I think it's a matter of scheduling it in, I guess, hopefully by early next year. I'm not exactly sure.
But probably this is going to take 2-3 months, do we all think?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think, definitely within the school year, so I would think that, hopefully soon after the holidays, in the next school, the next year, beginning of next year, 2021.
Okay.
I think.
All right, well,
so that's
I think
good news.
Okay,
Love Your Food. And also just to say that we are, there are quarterly updates of the website. So we are in the updating about what the community is doing in the homepage under Food for Thought. There are quarterly updates on that. So you'll be seeing new updated information probably in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll probably be sending out information about that just to let people know that they can check the Love Your Food website for new updates as well.
So the state's probably looking for some metrics to judge how well their money's being spent. What sort of metrics are we measuring, and how is that going? The reporting, well, to be honest, things have been
have been on pause, right, Steve? You know, in terms of, you know, giving information, they've been really sort of taking a step back. But basically, you know, the kind of reporting that they've been asking us, like in terms of education and outreach, has been more like how many, you know, the kind of events that we are at. It's more like activity-based metrics, like how many events were we at providing information. But we also so we are supposed to report also on our weight, on our food waste metrics from Maxwell Avenue as well. But I don't think they've actually collected that yet, right, Steve? They, you know.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Karen, is I think what the state's been pleased with is the fact that, you know, because there's been the pandemic has sort of put a crimp in our style with this. I think what they've been very pleased with is we haven't let it go. We've been updating them. We applied to repurpose some of the money. So I think they're generally pleased. We don't have all of the metrics, as Karen has mentioned, but you know, that's something that Lindsay just keeps working on with Karen and the rest of the committee. So, you know, what we've been able to do with Lindsay and then the committee is keep this thing rolling, even if it's just to remind the state that we haven't forgotten about it. We would like to do this instead of this. And I think that's been very much to our advantage with the state.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, and it sounds like transitioning from some of the in-person education to the videos, actually it could be from the state's point of view that they may actually like that better because it's something that is not just for the students who ended up getting on the bus, but it could be used anywhere in the state.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay.
true. And it can be, you know, disseminated. Yeah, so more, you know, more people can benefit from that. And hopefully we can be disseminated to community members beyond the school,
Right.
beyond our school district, right?
Right, well, there won't be any, the grant doesn't make any prohibition, for instance, for us to put this on our brand new app, does it?
No, I mean, that would be great, right? If we could use that platform to reach out to more people. Absolutely.
Okay, as long as we have a little logo for DEC and we put the governor's bridge somewhere in the bottom of the screen at the beginning and the end. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Before
Yes.
you go away from this, in your budget submission regarding the sustainability collaborative, you had about $3,000 or $4,000 in there for Love Your Food. This afternoon, Lindsay and I went through that budget, and based on the repurposing and everything, the other adjustments, there is more than enough money in that budget. So we were just wondering whether we couldn't move that money to something else, and then when the collaborative decides what they would like to do, just tap into the grant money, because as I say, there's about $81,000 in there that we could expend.
Oh, okay. So in other words, from the collaborative and therefore the town, you don't think we need the 3,000 to support this?
Not for the Love Your Food. We think there's more than enough money.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Good.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
So obviously, Karen, you know this quite well, as do Mark and Arlene, that part of the interest in the videos, especially food scraps, is seeing how quickly we can get some things out into our very own community to start talking to more people and showing more people that it's not nearly as death-defying, this food scraps recycling thing, as some people may be worried about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay.
So, and we've got great consultants. I mean, our FLIR consultants are, you know, really top notch and will, you know, willing to help us to put this together. So,
Okay.
And working with LMTTV as well in the production.
Okay. Good. So anything more on these subjects before we go to our 2021 goals and budget?
Also, should we update about the food scrap recycling part?
Sure.
I mean, there's a few things. One, thank you to everybody in terms of your support and interest in the following the whole proposed amendment for curbside, to make curbside collection the default, right? And Steve is here, so he can also chime in, but just to let people know where we're at, that there was that public hearing on October
27th,
26th, right? The public hearing about curbside collection being the default for garbage collection.
Not like it's okay. They all need this.
So basically, in that public hearing, we had, we heard from people who were against that. The organizers, including Wendy Weinstein, was one of the main organizers, presenting a petition with over 300 signatures.
You're just coming in being helpful, but like you're not.
And I think that we have to understand that basically, I think it's important to know that the information she had at that time was kind of limited when she sort of launched this petition, right? And the three main points that she had against curbside collection being the default was that one is that basically it creates if we do that, they were concerned that there'll be more bins on the streets, right? That it sort of creates, and they're concerned about bins on the streets and being an eyesore. So that's the concern about the aesthetics of it. And they also say potential hazard with a lot of bins on the streets if we have curbside only collection. Secondly, that side and back door of the house collection is a highly valued service that helps to justify the very high taxes that we pay. The third point that they had raised was that the tax savings that they had understood, which they threw this figure of $10 per resident per year, just didn't seem to justify the cost of the loss of this service. And I think Steve and the other officials recognized that they didn't have the full information about this. And of course, Steve did a wonderful job presenting, doing a PowerPoint presentation at the public hearing. But I think it was difficult for everybody to sort of process it, and in that time. And so I think the follow-up seems to be that I've been following the sort of work session since the public hearing. The next step seems to be that there's going to be a decision, there's going to be discussion where the town boards are going to be meeting this Thursday. The joint boards of Town of Mamaroneck and Village of Larchmont are going to be reviewing the issues that were raised at the public hearing this Thursday, and they're going to decide the next steps. It sounds like there's probably going to be another public meeting or hearing of some sort where our municipal officials can provide a fuller picture so that people can understand some of the things that they seem to have not fully understood. For example, the fact that doing away with backdoor and side door collection really is important for improving worker health and safety. I think people don't realize that sanitation staff are at higher risk with the steeper driveways and obstacles, so they deal with higher risk, and it's also reflected in the workers' compensation insurance. So, I mean, that's something that will be clarified, and and also the clarification about the tax, the cost savings that people didn't quite understand. They thought it was really quite low. I think that you know, we will need to explain, the town will explain to them you know, what it really means.
Right. So Steve, we don't want to steal your thunder
Yeah.
from 2 days from now.
No, but that's okay. So I think, you know, Karen touched upon some of the concerns just very quickly, because I know you've got other stuff to go on to. So, you know, that number of $10 is very erroneous. The savings is more than $10. We've also tapped into a survey that Scarsdale did just a couple of years ago on the number of communities. Karen actually had the study that Scarsdale did. So we took that and we updated some of the information. For instance, Rice City just went to curbside garbage collection within the last 4 or 5 months, I believe. So this Thursday, the town board and village board are going to have a work session. We are going to present additional information, you know, with respect to the cans. I think people forget that, remember, we don't pick up the entire town and village in one day. We pick up individual routes. And so, you know, it's not the entire town that has cans outside. The other approach is going to be to retrain the sanitation men that, while they're not going to walk it all the way back to the house, is to move it away from the curb and back up onto a driveway so that it doesn't have as much visibility. The other thing is there's just that many people, as they've moved into the community, are starting to put their garbage at the curb. But I think the important part of the presentation was that as everybody looks at what the future is, if we're going to collect food waste at the curb, if we're going to try and save money, the going to curbside now sort of opens up a pathway to considering these other alternatives. Can we go to once a week garbage collection and once a week food waste collection? Which means we can take all the benefits of the savings, yet expand the service. So, you know, those are all things we're going to go back over. We've actually prepared 2 different versions of the commission budget, one with curbside and one without. And so as Karen mentioned, I think, you know, the 2 boards are going to have to make a decision pretty soon because we're getting to the end of the budget.
Right. Yeah, it's getting to be the middle of November already. So
November. So
Mitch, I have a quick question for Steve and everybody and Karen. They were very well organized, Wendy Weinstein, and she got her signatures and so on. But do we know what the major thread of the pushback is? People don't like change. And I remember Steve telling us about how we can get rid of the cops, but not the garbage, you know, pickup and all that. Sorry. But as a joke. But is there really a major theme there? What galvanized those people? Because they didn't listen to Steve. I thought your presentation was excellent. Every one of the arguments was very well done. I said that in my note to Lorraine Walsh, and also to Nancy. They seem to have already made up their minds based on sort of looking backwards. Sorry, but that's what it seemed like.
I think you're seeing, well, first of all, there are issues with this petition. We've identified, I think, 95 names of people that don't even live in the state of New York. It was done on some sort of internet survey system that any of us can use. I think it is just, as you say, Libby, it's just they get used to a certain type of service, and the idea of change just makes them nuts. You know, when we went to the curbside recycling and said, you know how to separate the paper and the bottles and this, we had the same pushback for a while.
Okay.
But there are a number of people so I think the theme is the appearance and the fact that, you know, we do all of this, we pay all these high taxes, and we continually remind people, look, we're only 20%, the village and the town, you know, individually only represent 20% of a tax bill. And right now, you know, we can reduce the cost of solid waste collection to about $600 per year for the average resident. If you go up online, I've had a couple of residents now send me quotes from private carters to do the service. And I've written back to them to say, this service that they're offering for close to $500 a year is not even close to what we offer to the residents. So, I think we do have, as Karen mentioned, I think we have to clarify some of the information. And I think that's it. It's the appearance, and it's just that we've always done it this way. Why should we change?
They
Okay.
Libby, it's Matt here. They mobilized in a massive way on Nextdoor, and the sort of the ringleaders were using all of the traditional social media like fake news, fear mongering, coded language, the level of entitlement and privilege. I mean, I actually think one way that we might be able to defeat them is by putting it out on Twitter and letting the entire world take them apart for the shocking level of entitlement that some of our citizens were displaying on Nextdoor.
And well, actually, a lot of the people there are, are food scrap recyclers. So that's something that we have to bear in mind, that they're actually supportive of food scrap recycling. But I think they don't understand that there are these trade-offs, perhaps, that, and that there are solutions that can be made. Like, like Steve was saying about the cans on the street, sanitation staff can be trained to put them inside the property line, so that's not visible, so that the eyesore won't be there anymore. So there are things, I think it's not.
Libby, to wrap this up, because I think we need to move on. Steve, just so you know, I mentioned this to Nancy the other day. The collaborative is going to be putting together just a short little memo about positive engagement with the community in terms of some things, as you just mentioned, in terms of staff behavior, staff procedures, and some other adjustments that really might tend to diffuse some of the issues, and would also, going back to this community-based social marketing notion, that to engage people, we want to engage them positively with reasons to change their behavior, and to suggest that, the town, we're going to be giving to the commission some ammunition, if you will, to some ideas to suggest that maybe you go back and say, we heard you. We heard what you said, and, we hadn't realized that, but great that you told us. And so here's some things we're doing as we're moving forward toward making this decision. Here's some things that are demonstrating that we're listening to you, and that, we've got everybody's interests at heart, and we're going to make some positive responses.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
So we may not get it to you. We're definitely not getting it to you before Thursday.
Okay.
But we figure if we get it to you within the next week, that would be timely in terms of then, moving toward a decision. All right, so last subject of the evening. We were ahead of schedule for a long time, but I'm glad to see that everyone in the collaborative is keeping up with the concept that no, it's not really a good meeting until we're late. So seems longer, but on the 27th of October, and I think Sue sent this out, we presented on the collaborative's behalf to the town board at a work session our goals and priorities for 2021. We ended up with 7 things, 2 of them related to resilience, 4 of them related to sustainability, and then 1 of them related to quality of life. They're all things we've been talking about here in the last couple of months to year. Resident emergency backup power, trees, tree cover, native plant restoration, food scrap recycling to reduce solid waste volume and cost, the Love Your Food program, healthy yards, healthy clubs, and healthy community, not just residents now. With Lisa McDonald, we've started to push out into the clubs. I think the clubs probably are hoping that this summer is going to be a little bit more regular than last. We want to do that. We're not exactly sure when yet, Steve, but we really do want to do the Repair Cafe. And we want to continue as the collaborative pushing forward on various things about quality of life, the Boston Post Road, complete streets, and community character. So those were the 7 things that we talked about. Not all of them had budget allocations. Again, in the history of the collaborative, we always ask for more than the town gives us. And then also in the history of the collaborative, we never spend as much as the town somehow gives us, because we try to spend money and the town often says, no, we'll take care of this out of that department's budget or whatever. But to that, actually, when I was talking to Nancy the other night, she said, she'd really like it if the collaborative went back to our plan in 2014 and recognized that things had moved on and that the state had adopted a net zero energy, a renewable energy target for electric power in 2035 and some other targets. And Nancy has challenged us to actually take those initiatives and make a linkage in terms of what should the town be doing. The town meaning not only the government and its facilities, but also us residents, our schools, our clubs, our commercial areas, our houses of worship. How do we set out as the collaborative some big picture goals and then move toward perhaps use by use or type by type mini goals and the timetables? How do we create a pathway forward so that we actually, as all of us in the town, no matter whether we're at home or in a school or in a club or in a house of worship, how we know that all of us are moving forward positively toward those goals. So Mark Carell, unfortunately, doesn't seem to be here. Mark Manley's here and Frank is here. Frank and Mark, any initial reactions to all of that?
Sure, I'll jump in. So I think, my thought on this is what we should probably have, I think we've got some good guides like in New York City and places that have been very progressive on doing things. But one thing is just sort of establishing benchmarks. So for the different categories, like for single family homes, for maybe houses of worship, or in clubs, just to have some sense of what the total amount of energy is. And then once you have energy, it's a pretty easy translation into greenhouse gases. But so I think that would be, it's always good to have a baseline. And then once you've established a baseline, which is, it's going to be an approximation, but at least you have something. And then you can, from there, think about, how would you, what makes sense in terms of next steps. And it's not going to be easy. And certainly, residences, I think, because, some people are going to want to do it, but in any event, I think that's my thought is as a start is just having some sort of a baseline. And I have some thoughts on how you could go about doing it. I just haven't had the chance to do it myself.
Okay, Mark Manley.
I'll text him and see if he's.
Oh, he's on, but he's muted.
He said he was going to step away for a bit, but keep.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so Michelle, talking to Nancy reminded me that one of the things you've been passionate about since George and I joined the collaborative is greening the code. And as Frank was just saying, we may not go to the extent that the city is in terms of, establishing greenhouse gas targets, but certainly one of the things that we can look at is possibly a progressive series of steps closer toward net zero, because frankly, people in the town are always renovating their houses. And this is the kind of thing that, maybe for 2020 to 25, these are the things you have to do. And from 25 to 30, we step it up. And from 30 to 35, we step it up again. And from 35 forward, so that just like if you renovate more than X percentage of your total square footage in your house or your property, you have to do certain things. we could use those same sorts of precedents to now start plugging these kinds of stepped up goals and stepped up performance criteria into the code. What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's essential. I think that establishing what our carbon use is, both for residences, commercial, municipality, at the schools, the whole bundle is something that we have to commit ourselves to. And I think in the wider conversation, the question is, if we were able to pivot so quickly for COVID, can we pivot for carbon? And there are many tools right now to be used and integrated for everyone. And I think the hardest piece is to really make everyone informed of where we are, what we use, and how we can do better. I think, that's chronically been our problem, but there are municipalities in Westchester. Nancy and I have sat in some conferences about greening the code going back, several years, but where proposals for new work on home is reviewed with the building department and a green representative to tell them what is available, what they must do before they get very far along in their project, so that those pieces can be implemented. I think people have to be excited about it. It's one of these pieces from the community-based marketing solutions, or whatever the initial stood for, that you have to figure out what your campaign is, and then people have to know who's doing what and what good things are coming from it, and letting people know. When we constructed the net zero house down the street, and people were not paying anything for their utilities, right? We had to drop the ball because of other reasons, but to make people aware, it's so exciting. And to let people know that it's available and there are people that can help. And we need to do it on all levels. If the town did it, that's a real model.
Yep. Well, it's also interesting, Steve. I'm probably dead wrong on this, but my sense is, if you asked me 10 years ago, I'd say tear downs. There are no tear downs in the town of Mamaroneck. And if you asked me 5 years ago, I'd say there are a couple of tear downs. But it seems that the pace of housing regeneration has picked up. Do you believe that that's actually true?
Well, I think clearly we're seeing more tear downs than we did before. There's just a whole change in the housing market. There is just a new, people moving into the town. They want a different layout of the homes. Some of the older homes don't have the same layout. There's a movement now to expand the use of basements as more of a living or recreational space. So yeah, some people come upon these homes and they're not considered acceptable to them, so they tear them down and rebuild. But the board, is going to look at this in the comprehensive plan. They're going to look at the FAR to try and put some control over what we call the McMansion syndrome. And then as Michelle said, we've looked at how we could green the code to require builders to offer options so that we can see whether they are feasible from both an economic and a practical sense. But yes, there are people that just want a different home, and they're willing to tear down the old home to do it. And Larchmont and Mamaroneck have just become incredibly, land values are going back up. We're seeing bidding wars in the town again. We haven't seen in a while.
Right. Okay. Steve Moser, you've been very quiet. So surely you have an opinion about this.
Well, I voiced it before. I think I think the town ought to have an architectural review board. I'd be curious to know about the statistics on what percentage of tear down homes are being done by builders and what percentage are being done by homeowners, because I think the lion's share are being done by builders because they're looking in order for them that they're buying the properties based on the sale value of it, and they're looking to max it out. And I think the simplest thing that the town can do to the first step is to make it to slow down that process a little bit. I think all the things about bulk and stuff make perfect sense, and I think the greening that Michelle's talking about. But I think that's sort of a low-hanging fruit approach to it. But at least from what I'm seeing anecdotally and what you see in the neighborhood is, a builder comes in, looks at, well, anyway, I've repeated myself. Right. They're just looking to max out the property. It's less so on the homeowner that you're seeing that being done. I mean, Steve, to your point about sort of finishing off basements and things like that, but an end user was more likely to add on to a house. A builder is more likely to tear it down.
Right. Liza?
I was just going to ask, I mean, either Steve might know the answer to this. For tear downs, many people like to reuse materials nowadays, and certain towns sometimes have, as part of their dump, like an area where you can either purchase or pick up like old bricks or flooring, or even sometimes appliances that may be like perfectly fine versus just, completely the whole kit and caboodle.
I mean, we have seen, it's not frequent, but we have seen some builders, and I'm not remembering the name of the company, it's called Community Resources, something like that, that will actually come to a building site and they will try and separate and reuse materials. They won't necessarily use it at the site, but they will separate, and then they will bring it to, they'll bring it, stockpile it, and some builders will buy the material.
Restore does that.
I wouldn't say it happens frequently, but it does happen.
Yeah, there's a couple of places that have it.
Restore has quite a bit of recycled materials.
I actually thought that you were talking about some municipalities have guidelines for how you are required to disassemble a home or dismantle it. And, and those things are resourced and reclaimed, and there are penalties if you just throw it out as opposed to making sure.
I was asking that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that's where you were going with that. And that's also, I mean, part of what Michelle's talking about in terms of greening the code. It also has to do with that, adding to the waste stream as opposed to coming up, putting the onus on, making it a little bit more difficult to tear down. That if you're going to demolish a whole home is what happens with that waste, and those are things that can be part of the construction code, or the demolition code.
So there was some preliminary work that was done that I did on this, Mitch. Going back years ago, I'd be happy to pick it up again and meet with Nancy and run through some of it, if that's the right way, or Steve, to just review where we were, because
I think, Michelle, that's a great idea. Maybe what we should do is kind of gather it together within the collaborative first and see what we want to update, and then go to Nancy and Steve. And then once we have something a little bit more cooked, maybe we can, we'll start to think about what we do with the board.
I believe that the whole west side of Westchester has greened their codes, the towns along the water.
Hey, Mitch, a couple other ideas on this. One is, I don't know if Joe Liberti's still with us, but
yep,
I know is he still here?
Yep.
Here he is.
Oh, hey, hi, Joe. So, I spent a fair amount of time a while ago working with the schools to try to make, help students, with the energy dashboard, which ended up not being, continued. But I think that if there were some way to try to, tie in to, our educational system with kids who were, you know, make them sort of aware of, you know, this issue, because I think that a lot of younger people are interested in being greener. So, you know, we were trying to do with the dashboard, but maybe there's another way to do it. So anyway, tying into schools and children or students who are important members of families who, because obviously lots of our building stock are single family homes. So that's one idea. And the other was, I've got to believe there are lots of other communities in the United States that are thinking about the same issue. And, you know, California comes to mind because they've got super aggressive goals. They've got net zero new construction goals. They've got net zero for schools. It's really impressive. So I'll, you know, put on my list to see if I can't find something. But I thought if anybody else runs across some other communities that are also kind of trying to link the community goals with state goals.
Well, Frank, you and I should have a conversation before you look too far. I've become pretty active in the Living Building Challenge out of the West Coast.
Oh, right.
And they have lots of just good ways to do that. But it's also the question of whether we're able as communities to really pivot some of our focus on creating better environments. We have nothing to lose from it.
Well, can I just ask, what about Bedford 2020? You know, aren't they a nearby community that we can look at who have, you know, been really tracking their community greenhouse gas emissions and looking at it sector by sector? And now they're coming up with, they're going beyond 2020, right? Bedford, what is it now? Bedford 2030. Yeah. They're coming up with a new plan, and they seem to be very systematic in the way that they track their communities' greenhouse gas emissions and steps that they're doing to reduce that. So this is one community that really.
I've sat in their meetings. Their meetings are now on Zoom, and they do a lot of tracking. They're less involved with the building component, which I think for us, the tear downs in this area are really troublesome. But I think that they have a really active group that just is everywhere there as far as pulling in the information, disseminating information, and we could probably learn a lot from them.
Yeah, they were, you know, we did Solarize, you know, it was impressive. They started, a guy in Bedford started the New York PACE program. It's since been transferred to somebody else, but they've just been so progressive on a whole bunch of issues. And I think that's a great suggestion of Karen to try to, do you know, Karen, have you seen anybody in particular in Bedford who's been involved in, because I know a lot of those people, and that's a great suggestion. I can reach out to the people I know there.
You know, I don't really have a personal relationship with the people there. You know, I've just been to like the climate. I think a few of us went to the climate change, the conference that they had a few years ago, and I just felt I get their emails, so you know, they're very good in terms of communication, and once you're on the email list, and but I don't really know anybody there. You know, that I
didn't know anyone.
Yeah, I know some people. I can follow up with them.
All right. Great. I think so. I think that was pretty good. Anybody want to have anything to say about any of our other goals and programs for next year?
Oh, sorry, Mitch. I just wanted to ask the budget. If we have you know, the goal, the budget plan that you have. If we are working on a project in there, should we actually wait? Like, you know, we are actually working on a sticker idea, following up on the community-based social marketing sticker about compost food scraps that we would, to try to establish it as a social norm and diffuse it. Stickers that you could put on your garbage can or in the car. Or, I'm just wondering, should we hold off until the budget is approved, or what is your advice about?
So the collaborative has a long history, and Steve can speak to this, of doing last minute appropriations from the town budget for things in December. So the town, so if you have an idea of something you wanted, the team wants to do between now and December the 1st, if you can put it into some form that we can all review and understand and endorse, then we can get it authorized, and then we can authorize it in this year's budget.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mitch, on our goals, and maybe this ties into what Nancy's asking for. I think that it seems to me it could make sense to have in the goals to promote the community solar that we're going to do on the ice rink, because that you could do a lot with that. You could have, getting back to the schools, you could have the schools sort of, trying to guess. Well, actually, one fun thing would be to figure out if we could get the students to take to study the Hummocks project, and then figure if they can just take those lessons and do it at the adjacent Hummocks Middle School, putting this new, rent. Essentially, the model there is just renting out the roof, and you make enough money, they could put a brand new roof on it. It's
yes, they're doing. Yeah, they're doing it.
Yeah, it's challenging. You got a whole school
but they're
administration. You got to think
renting
through.
it.
But I think, more broadly, using that project to maybe saying, okay, how much solar is being generated at the school? How does that compare with how many homes? And we have these statistics. How many homes have solar? And does this, what we're doing in the school, does that equal all the homes in Larchmont, Mamaroneck? And so I don't have really a very good answer yet, but I think it seems like it's a good learning opportunity.
Is it in the curriculum? Frank, is this something to add into the curriculum or to just tweak something that already exists?
Well, I don't know, maybe Joe has some thoughts, but my experience with the school is that they have a very strict curriculum that, we worked with Sophia Andrews on the dashboard. One of the challenges is that you have a very, very highly restricted curriculum. And so it's hard to do something, it's hard to work things into the curriculum. It was my past experience, but I'm thinking that there might be some other, other ways to engage. And again, I don't have the answers. I'm just thinking it seems to me it's a great education opportunity.
It's all about the app, Frank.
Yeah, well, maybe it is. Maybe it's the app. Maybe this
is the app. Because, for instance, I don't know whether the developer, Steve, you would maybe know, they may or may not be interested in helping put together, maybe they'd even be willing to help fund a case study of what they're doing at Hummocks. Certainly it's in their interest to promote what they're doing. And this is the kind of thing that, we'd have to scrub it for bad advertising, but it's the kind of thing that maybe this goes into the app, and it becomes a resource, and other things like that. Mark Carell putting solar on his house, it goes into the app, it gets to be a resource. So you're 100% right. We all thought back then that what we needed to do was get into the curriculum, but maybe there's another alternative here, is maybe if we can produce a volume of interesting things, maybe the curriculum will still be the curriculum, but the students will be paying attention to us. Joe, do you have any perspective on that?
So, I mean, the way the students and I sort of looked at this app was initially, there's all this information, all these initiatives, and they can appear to be sort of disparate at times, even though I know that's not true. So there's a website over here. There's a link on the town website over there. And so the thinking was, if you could bring this information together in a way that's easily digestible, and that's important. The apps are not websites. You should not overload them with content. The thinking was we could use this platform to really amplify the work that's already been done by bringing it together in a very user-friendly, simple platform that helps residents, regardless of their age, take immediate actions. You really don't want to bog people down. You want them to kind of very quickly go from sort of understanding. I think in general, I think the people in this area, ideally would like to lower their environmental impact. So we start with that premise, and then the goal is then quickly get them to do something that is doable. And so the app is really that, so I think you have to be careful about making it into something it's not. And so, where a resident simply, it's spring, they're thinking about plantings. They've downloaded the green app, at that point, again, hopefully with push notifications, you can be like, hey, I know you're thinking about spring planting, consider, native plants. And that sort of prompts them to the app. They go to native, they go to the, I forget the name of that topic, whatever, but then they get to way to native plants. They touch on that. It gives quick description. These are popular native plants available at the following local nurseries. And then you can even have a couple how-to videos that the students produce with some at the nursery saying, hey, these are some of our top selling native plants. They work well here, and here's the basic care. Boom. So again, it's that idea of really trying to streamline and make it easy to just have enough content that's digestible, then gets them to action. So any initiative sort of can be, I think, put into that type of format and sort of in those sort of simple steps.
Okay.
Okay.
But I do, just to double back, I do think the educational component, like that was being described earlier in terms of, the green taggers and all that stuff, working with the students when they're young. I think that's incredible. I think that is that's where getting in at that early age is great. And that a lot of that content in terms of the how-to videos would be perfect for the app. When you get people to that and say, hey, here's a quick video of how you, do your little food scrap collection in your kitchen using your kit you bought from the town.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. Liza, you were raising your hand.
I just want to say quickly about that app. It's amazing. It's really, really incredible. And it's so wonderful that you're teaching students to look around and learn this information. A lot of the information that's in that website, I feel like I learned it a week ago. It's stuff it's really for young people who are learning it in their late teens. It's just the beginning for them, and that this is their future. And I'm just so happy and really very impressed.
We hope.
And
we hope, right?
Yeah, we hope.
I would second that. I think it's amazing too.
Okay, so I'm not sure that we could end on a better note than the one we just had.
Mitch, can I?
Yes, George.
Of course, I usually think about gas blowers, and we can continue working on that. But as I'm sitting here,
no.
Why not?
No, keep going, keep going.
As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, of course, I've gotten interested in gas blowers because of the noise, but of course, there are implications for clean air also. And I'm thinking that there's a lot of things that we might be talking about that relate to clean air. We're working on electric cars, for example, and we're working on carbon emissions from houses and even trees. I wonder if one day we ought to just put in clean air as a major area of interest and have these various subcategories.
Oh, that's great, George.
That's
Perfect.
a good idea. Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, thank you, everybody. This has been terrific. Our next meeting is Tuesday, December the 10th. Sue and I will try, right? You're not happy, Sue?
No, is it at the 8th?
Oh, did I make a? Oh,
Yeah.
You're right. It's the 8th.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday, December.
But it's the 8th.
Okay, it's Tuesday, December the 8th. Yes, we're going to be Zooming again, and Sue and I will try to do a little bit better job of getting our minutes out and our agenda out before the meeting, so people have time to study up. One of the things that I'd like everybody to think about between now and next time, and we'll get this out in an email, is let's think about for each one of these goals, what is our specific objective? What is it that we specifically, something we can actually achieve? So that a year from now, when I have to go back to the board and ask for money and tell them what we want to do, I'm going to say, you know, we told you we were going to do X, Y, and Z, and actually we did those 3 things and we did 6 others. So we used your money wisely, so please give us more. Okay, thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank